So thank you everyone for being with us tonight. My name is Michelle Kusa and I'm representing the Ohio Middle Level Board tonight. On behalf of the board, again, we just want to thank you for being with us. It's so nice to just see faces unmasked, like Jack says, and just have a little time to rejuvenate and laugh and spend some time with people. I know it's just been a rough go, no matter what situation you're in, whether you're in school, whether you're hybrid, whether you're remote or anything in between, back and forth. It has definitely been a crazy year. And so we need these little moments to really stick together and support each other and just laugh a little. I know I was on a little bit early tonight and it was nice just to smile and laugh a little bit, because there's so much craziness and things that we can't control in the world that sometimes we need that little break. So we hope that this evening is refreshing for you, that it fills you with optimism and hope for the future, and also some great ideas to take into your classrooms, whatever that might look like right now, whether in person or virtual. If you've been following us this year, again, we've been trying to do some different things virtually, since we can't do some of our in-person professional development. So thank you for joining our professional development series. If you've been with us so far this year, we've had Missy McLean talk about trauma. We had Tim Freeman give a legal update. And just a few weeks ago, we had Weston Keshnick, one of our conference keynote speak, and that was awesome. You can still check out the video of that on our Twitter and Facebook pages if you're interested. We're super excited to have Jack with us tonight and share some of his books with us. And we still have a few more webinars planned. So if you are marking your calendars, on December 2nd, we'll have Swanton Middle School with us. They have been named our OMLA Team of the Year, and their principal, Matt Smith, was also named our OMLA Educator of the Year. And they'll be sharing some of their successful strategies just on teaming and things that they've been able to do to take teaming to the next level. And it's a pretty cool story because they actually do vertical teams. And I've had the chance to go out and visit their school, and it's truly unbelievable what they're doing. So that'll be on December 2nd. There's still time to sign up for that. And then in January, we have our other keynote, Kevin Honeycutt, joining us to give you a little preview of what he'll be speaking about at conference. So we're hoping that things calm down a little bit. We're looking forward to our rescheduled conference date this spring and hope that you can join us. But in the meantime, we're happy to get together with you and see educators from all across the state join together and just keep doing great things for kids. So thank you guys for all of your dedication to middle level education and students, and just keep fighting the fight. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Kogan, and she will tell you a little bit about herself and then turn it over to Jack.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Michelle. And thanks, Michelle and John, for everything that you guys have done to put these together for everyone. I've had an opportunity to sit through a couple of them, and they've been amazing. So we're kind of hoping tonight is not a flop. So I just wanted to say that we're happy that you're here. I am the vice president of the Ohio Middle Level Association. And when I'm not doing that, I'm the assistant superintendent in Olmsted Falls City Schools. And as I was thinking about introducing my dear friend Jack, who I have known for quite a while, I thought, well, we're sipping and chatting, so maybe we should do a drinking game. So if everyone could just unmute themselves for 1 second, I'm going to say a phrase and I want you all to finish it. Okay? I'm too pretty for
prison.
Prison.
That mother, she's a wacka.
Doodle.
They're not specials. They're called
Jim.
Essentials of fine arts.
And and we all know that if this goes well tonight, he might become the ruler of
education. All the world.
So, so now you can mute yourselves back up. I think that if you've heard Jack speak, he has a great way of taking humor and making us laugh and think about it, and at the same time make us realize how important our jobs are. And I think now more than ever we need the humor. So I am going to monitor the chat box. If there's something that pops in your mind that's appropriate or inappropriate, because really it's Jack. So really there's no kind of level of what you should be putting in the chat box. But I will monitor it. So if you have some questions or you want him to expand on something, but hopefully you've grabbed your drink, you're ready to go. And so Jack, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you. I know they really want to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I have to thank everyone at OMLA. For those of you that know, I am so emotionally attached to the organization and to so many of your schools in Ohio. And to be honest with you, this is just a thrill because I admit it freely. I've been very lonely, and I gave a keynote to the postman the other day and he didn't find it funny at all. I yell at random children in the grocery store, but it's muffled because I have a mask. And speaking of the masks, I have a couple of things that about the mask that just, and bear with me and raise your hand if you agree with any of this. I have turned into either a 7th grader or an 80-year-old man when I wear a mask, because here's what happens. When I wear a mask, I can't see because I'm fogged up, and I can't hear, and everyone sounds muffled. I spend the majority of my day going, what? Huh? What? Huh? And then I said, I can't see, I can't hear. I literally am falling apart. And how many of you had no clue how hard it would be to teach in a mask? It is so hard to teach in a mask. How many of you are like, you're talking, you're like thinking air has gone away, you get more fatigued, you get more tired. I understand all of that we're dealing with. And I promise we're going to tell some funny stories today. And I'm also going to chat about a couple things. The first thing I wanted to share with you though, is that how many of you were like me on March 17th? Let's go back to March 17th. Do you remember March 17th? How many of you literally woke up on March 17th and thought, what in the hell is going on? Like literally your world changed in a heartbeat. And then after that, every day you just wake up and I was like, well, craptastic. If there's one word that sums up this year, it's craptastic. So for those of you that are doing bingo drinking, there's your first square, craptastic. Because I honestly feel like it is the weirdest time. And the only thing I remember is we were finally getting over that damn song, Baby Shark. Like Baby Shark was coming to an end and I was thinking about spring break, and then bam, I'm in a bunker. Like I am literally in a bunker. And I don't know about any of you, I finally decided to like venture out after being in the bunker for a while and go for a walk. How many of you thought, I got to get outside, I got to go for a walk? Okay, so I'm walking down the street and I would see someone like 200 yards away and I would start jockeying for position. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do I go to the right? Do I go to the left? Do I stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight? I was so confused. I was socially awkward before and now I'm worse. And so I didn't know what to do. So then I thought, oh, walking is too healthy, so I'll stay in. And here's what happened. I started to binge watch. Did any of you do binge watching of television shows? Oh my goodness. Now I know many of you, you're all optimistic. So you did good ones like MASH, The Golden Girls, Little House on the Prairie. Pa, Nellie can't see. You are literally going down the path of all of these hopeful, optimistic shows. Not me. I went dark. Anybody here go dark? And I mean dark. Like I started with Stephen King's The Outsider, which was basically about sucking the soul out of children's lives. That's where I started, right? Then where did I go after that? Tiger King. How many of you watched The Tiger King and realized that you're normal? You're normal after watching The Tiger King. And by the way, I took up COVID cussing. I'm going to admit it freely. That was a shit show. That literally was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe someone lived like that. And then I thought, well, I'll go somewhere else, right? No, I went deeper and darker. I went to the Ozarks. Who did the Ozarks, man? Oh my God, don't drown the baby. Don't drown the baby. I'm screaming at the television, crying, going, don't drown the baby. Boom, someone's head gets blown off. That was summing up everything. And I thought, I need some light. I need to go to the light. Oh no, I did The Handmaid's Tale. Who did The Handmaid's Tale? Oh, praise be. Ho, ho, ho. I couldn't sleep at night. I had nightmares. I was distraught. It was bad. Like it was absolutely bad. And so for those of us that have been in the dark, I finally went around and saw some better things. I saw some things that were a little bit more lighthearted, like Schitt's Creek and some of those others. But I don't know about you guys, like I said, I went really dark and kind of in a weird funk. And so I'm getting out of that funk, but I do have to realize a couple things. One is how many educators at some point in time did the I told you so dance? And here's what I mean. How many of you got an email from a parent that said, my son or daughter won't pay attention, is disrespectful and won't do their work? And what did you do when you read that email? You were like, I told you so. I told you so. You did, didn't you? You totally did that. And I'll tell you, the people I felt for any person who was a double dipper. If you were a double dipper, let me know. You know what a double dipper is? You were teaching your own children at home and your kids at school. Who double dipped? You had your kids at home and then kids at school. Yeah. How many of you as a parent Googled boarding schools? Serious as a heart attack. You're thinking seriously, how many of you put your child out on the corner with a little sign that said free, like a sofa? Parents were so distraught. I had a friend of mine, her husband is a middle school teacher. She's a high school teacher. She called me up and she said, my two own children are the worst kids I've ever taught in my whole entire life. You know what I told her? I said to her, I told you so. I told you so. I do think this, and you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think for the first time ever, we finally have bridged that gap with parents and teachers, finally understanding that, you know what? Sometimes their kid is a damn wackadoodle. And I think parents have realized that. I think they see that. And here's the truth. Raising a child is one thing, but teaching a child is completely different. Yes or no? And I think parents have finally realized that it's not one and the same, that they are two different attributes and two different things to do. So for those double dippers, holler to all of you. Here's my other favorite thing that I loved. How many of you realized that certain teachers who aren't really savvy in technology, when you had your first Zoom meetings, it was the funniest thing to watch on the face of the earth? How many of you have a faculty member that still leans in when they go to talk? I call this the drunk sorority fraternity meeting. You know what I'm saying? Remember in college and your friend to be like, I just want you to know that I care about you. Yeah, I literally watched the whole Zoom piece, but you know the best part about a whole Zoom meeting and principals? You're gonna give me a hallelujah on this one. We can finally mute people. Oh, isn't that the best thing ever? How many of you want one live? Next faculty meeting, they're all kind of getting upset. Little button, mute their ass for 30 seconds. That's all I gotta say. Just a little mute makes the world go on a whole better place. All right, so those are the things that I kind of realized in regards to what we were dealing with during this time. And my favorite joke and line is this. You talk about karma for teachers. How many of you working from home, you've realized you can now finally go to the bathroom anytime you want? Isn't that the best thing on the face of the earth? But the problem is there wasn't toilet paper for 2 months. All right, so that's my little COVID comedy shtick to kind of just get us past the elephant in the room. I do want to talk about a couple things. The first thing is this. Congratulations to the first year of teaching ever. I don't care if you've taught for 30 years. I don't care if you've just taught for 6 weeks. We are all in the first year of teaching. None of us were trained to teach this way. And so you know what? That means a little patience and that means a little grace right now for everybody. The second thing is, how many of you are seeing a lot of educator bashing on social media right now, where bad things are being said about teachers, about what's going on? Okay, I'm gonna tell you right here, right now. Tonight, anytime I gossip, I lean in. So I'm gonna gossip, okay? Here's the thing. If they're posting bad things about teachers, they just need some sweet loving. That's what it is. They're just lonely and they need some sweet loving. So you know what? Ignore all those negative things that are being said about educators right now, because you know what? People are just tense and they're upset. And sometimes they tend to blame people that are closest to them or easy targets. So let go of all of that. The other thing in education right now, whether we want to embrace it or not, is education is going to change. We're going to see a big change in education after this whole entire situation is over. And I'll talk a little bit about those components. All right, we have some friends here from Hawaii, so they won't relate to this. But are you ready for this? Gone are snow days. I'm just telling you right here, right now. Gone are snow days. I don't ever see a snow day ever coming back after all of this virtual stuff. All right. Advice that I'm giving teachers right now in general. One is please have some grace in grading. Have some grace in grading for our kids right now. You know, I think what we learned in March and April is sometimes grades don't mean as much as we think they do. Relationships obviously mean more. and trying to stay connected with your kids. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is that I'm going to talk about this wonderful workbook that I put together, which is how to do virtual teaching, even if you have a face for radio. Come on, I'm the only one that could write that title. And here's the truth. I'm not an expert on technology. I'm not going to tell you about technology. I'm old school, baby. I think the typewriter's coming back. I can feel it. I can sense it in my bones, right? So I'm not here to talk to you about technology. What I am good at is what are good lessons and how do we motivate young adolescents? And that's what I'm going to talk about in this book. The other is that I think for the first time ever, we're able to deliver instruction completely differently. And I'll explain some of that throughout the course of this. Here's the good news. I'm not going to talk about format. I'm not going to talk about Google Suite. Ugh, you hear me? That Google makes you want to hurl, right? I'm not going to talk about anybody doing Canvas. Oh, I took Canvas training. Oh my gosh, I had a breakdown after 20 minutes. Click here, post here, click this. Yes, no, is this worth the grade? Is it not worth the grade? Is it worth the final? I shut down. So if you're going through any of those trainings, I know how difficult that is. And so I'm not going to talk about the formats. What I'm going to talk about is why I think there's some benefits in regards to recording some lessons. And here's what I mean. For the first time ever, I think if we record some lessons for our kids, they can finally be able to watch it again and see that lesson again. Here's what we've done. How many of you live teaching, you go to teach, and then as soon as you're done, what's the first thing a kid says? What did you say? What was that part? I didn't hear that one part. Now our students can actually go back and watch that lesson again. The one-size-fits-all model is going to go away. And that is one of the things we have to adjust to, is how can we pre-record as many lessons as we can so kids can actually watch it more than once. And here's the best part. Kids can start and stop it at various times. That is something our kids have been doing to us in classrooms for years. You know how? They raise their hand and go, I need to go to the toilet. I got to go potty. I got to go to the bathroom. That's how they've been pausing us for years, is through management issues. And now a kid, after a pre-recorded, they can literally start and stop anytime they want. How many of you, sometimes you're absent? You know what I'm talking about? I'm not feeling well, you know? Imagine pre-recording that lesson so that the substitute teacher has that lesson. Right now, we're struggling with getting substitute teachers, yes or no? And sometimes substitutes don't know how to deliver that instruction. So what a great way for you when you're absent, record that lesson so kids still see you teaching. And what about the kids that are absent from school themselves? What's the first thing you hear when a kid comes back? What I miss? What do I miss? What's the work? Imagine having that pre-recorded lesson so kids could see what they missed that day and watch it again. All right, this next one makes special ed teachers jump for joy. Pre-recording a lesson is so perfect for our special ed kids. If I pre-record a lesson and share that with the special ed teacher a day or two before I actually deliver it, what can the special ed teacher do? They can make modifications, they can make changes, they can figure out which kids they might need to pull in to kind of do some small group stuff. What a great opportunity to pre-post a lesson so your special ed teacher is ahead of you, just like you are in delivering that instruction. And the other is we can finally start to integrate curriculum. For those of you that are like me, middle school fanatics, we can finally start to integrate some curriculum. And I think that's a big piece right now, is getting back to some of that middle school model. Here's my advice. And I told people this at the end of the school year last year, and very few people listened. And I think they're now kind of going, I wish I would have done this. Next semester, look at your curriculum for next semester. If you're blessed to work in a building where there are 3 6th grade language arts teachers, I would meet with those teachers in a department and say, let's look at that curriculum. Let's each of us pick 3 things that we like from that curriculum and pre-record those lessons. I don't believe in math. And so, but if I did math correctly, that's 9 lessons, right? So that means we now have 9 lessons ready to go for next semester that's pre-recorded. I don't care if my students see a colleague in the building recording and doing a lesson for my kids in my classroom. Why do I worry about that? I'm not worried about that at all. In fact, how many of you are passionate about certain things in your curriculum and things that you're not? Very few people know this about me. My second career choice, I wanted to be a weatherman so bad. I'm not lying to you guys. I watch the Weather Channel religiously. I am all a geek. I am a weather geek. I am so into weather. I'll never forget this. On my team, I was talking about how the kids hated poetry. See, again, poetry. I was like, the kids hate it. The kids don't like it. And I'll never forget, one of my colleagues on my team, she said, Jack, why don't the kids like poetry? And I'm like, because it's stupid. And I'll never forget, she goes, why do the kids hate poetry? And I go, because I hate poetry. And I'll never forget what she said. She goes, I write my own poetry and I've taken some college classes. Well, you know what I'm thinking? What am I thinking? I'm thinking she can do the poetry. No, that's not what I was thinking. I was like, freak, who likes poetry? But see, the first time in my career, I thought before I spoke. And so I said, what are you trying to say? And she said, let me teach the poetry. This is true middle school, where we can literally take some of our own passions that are outside of our subject area, develop some pre-recorded lessons for our students. What a great opportunity. I taught a great lesson on weather. I'll never forget, I had the weather map up there and I was like, there's a cold front sweeping across the nation. I was into it. What a great opportunity to look at that second semester, get your department together and pre-record. I'm leaning in because here comes the gossip. You guys want to know the truth? If you're not the face of your curriculum, the district will find someone else to deliver that curriculum. Think of it right now. In Oklahoma, where I'm at right now, do you know the largest school district is a virtual online school district with 55,000 students? This is a huge issue for us because this whole idea of me standing in front of you and delivering it in a one-shot deal has to change. And here's the benefit. I think we're finally going to get to the point with less tell, more show. Let me repeat that. Less tell, more show. Why couldn't I pre-record a lesson, show it up on the screen, take 4 or 5 kids off to the side and work with them? Why couldn't I do that? They're still getting the what? They're still getting the riveting lecture on asthma. No, they're still getting that content, but I'm also working with some kids off to the side. Remember, these 5-7 minute things, they don't have to be 30-40 minute. And then the last one for me is what a great opportunity to do guest speakers. You know, it's hard getting people into the building, but pre-recording some Zoom meetings with other people that you're talking about, whatever your subject is, what a great opportunity to do that. I'm going to breathe for 1 second. And if anyone has a question or anything like that, I'll stop and I'll take a sip of Gatorade and we'll move on. Questions, comments? You're riveted. I love it. All right. The next piece is that the school that I'm working with right now, it's 3 middle schools, and they were talking about their kids won't log on. Their kids aren't doing the work. Their kids aren't, participating. Well, I asked a simple question. I said, well, do you have a schedule for kids when they're home doing virtual learning? How many of you prepared an actual schedule for your students when they are at home? Meaning, you get out of bed at 8:45. You brush your teeth, get a little breakfast. The only thing I advise is knowing the adolescent brain is keep those in 20-minute intervals, meaning I want you to do 20 minutes of content, 10-minute break. And put in that break time, here's where you text your friends. Here's where you communicate with your family. Here's where you go to the bathroom. Again, middle school kids crave structure. And yet we send them home without structure. All right, I'm leaning in, I'm gossiping. Let's be honest, right here, right now. If I'm an 8th grade boy, and you don't give me structure, I'm gonna wake up at noon, I'm gonna eat some Frosted Flakes, smoke some weed, and go back to bed. Okay, this might be, I'm waiting for people to go, did you just say smoke weed? Yes, I did. Because you know what? For some of our kids, that might be the schedule that they think is appropriate. And yet we wonder why they're not working, why they're not engaged. Create a powerful schedule for your kids and include time for them when they would go to their essentials classes. Include that into that schedule. All right, this is my favorite part to talk about. When you get ready to record the lesson, how many of you are like me? I hate my voice. I hate how I look. I hate everything about recording myself. It makes me uncomfortable. I struggle. Many of you know me. Do you think I like delivering instruction this way? No, I want to be with you. I want to put my hand on your head. I want to, wipe stuff on you. I want to be in your presence. And so for me, it was a struggle to get to this point where I'm like, how do I do this? All right. So you know what I learned to do first right off the bat is embrace your flaws. Embrace your flaws. If you have a voice that sounds like a squirrel, the first time you record the lesson, lean in and go, I sound like a squirrel, don't I? It's annoying. Here's the best part. When you pre-record a lesson, you can't see your middle school kids rolling their eyes and going, God, this is horrible. Because it's pre-recorded, man. You don't see their responses. You don't see their faces. What a great opportunity to cheese it up. Here's the other is, pray for a zit. Pray for a big old zit right here on your forehead. Because I guarantee you, the day I got the zit, I'd lean in and go, do you see that? Its name is Oscar. It's our guest speaker. Embrace the flaws. And literally lean in. Any bats in the cave? Any food in my teeth? These are the things that I'm telling you will engage kids far more than your riveting lecture on asthma. So again, what can I do to embrace my flaws? Your hair, oh, my hair looks like a mess, whatever it is, embrace the flaws. Imagine now with the green screens, we can take kids anywhere in the world while we talk about the subject area, yes or no? We can have it behind us as we talk about various places or things or whatever you want to talk about. That green screen opens up to where we can take kids. The other one, this is my favorite. In the background, I would every once in a while put 2 words up on the board behind you. And at the end of your lesson, say to the kids, what were the 2 words that were behind me? And by the way, those are your vocab. It forces kids to go back and watch that lesson again. Look, we're middle school teachers, man. It's about manipulation. So again, simple little things. And here's the best one. Go outside. Finally get out of that classroom of your 4 walls. If you're talking about something literal that you want them to see, videotape it, record it, show it. We now can go anywhere that you're out and about that you think relates to your subject area, record something to show them. Less tell, more show. My favorite thing in the lessons too is use one of your students, many of your students' name randomly in your lecture. And literally say, Jonathan, I know you're not really paying attention, pay attention. And then at the end, what you do is you tell the kids, hey, if you instant message me or send me a message that I said your name, I'll give you 4 million points. Because grades don't matter. Okay, anyway, did I say that out loud? Oh, damn, the filter went away. So again, anytime you can use kids, oh, have you done this? Put a stuffed animal in front of the screen, you stand behind and talk like you're the stuffed animal. Middle school kids are all over that, man. They will literally pay attention to you. Got an obedient dog? Put the obedient dog right here. And then you stand behind and talk like you're the dog. How many of you are blessed to still have your mother or father with you? If you do, imagine this. Anytime that you do directions, have your mother or father record the directions and say this, my mama said, and then play what your mama would say those directions are. If you're lucky to have children at home that you like, I'm pausing because I know you're probably laughing. Put them in those videos with those lessons as well. Have them participate. Have them kind of show other students how to go through the process or do it. Next is practice. Just practice. And if you're adventurous enough, get a friend to look at it and offer some critique. Now, I know there's some powerful people on this webinar or this Zoom meeting, whatever it is. And so I got to bring up some educational stuff, right? Because there are words, you all know, I've talked about this for years. There are words in education that make you want to hurl. Am I right? Remember Common Core? Do you see how it just gets stuck and makes you want to like this Google Doc? You see, I can't even get it out. Google. Okay, this is one. Veteran teachers, I want to see your hands because you know every lesson for the last 7 years, you better have your objective. Do you see how it got stuck? Objective. Well, guess what? In the virtual pre-recording, can you start off and say, hey, everybody, here's the objective of the lesson? Yes, you can. No different than the board behind you. And by the way, students, here's the materials you need. So pause me and go get the materials. And I don't know about any of you. Are you getting assignments submitted from students at like 3 o'clock in the morning? No. That's not acceptable for middle school. So here's what you say. Here's the objective. Here's the materials. And it's due by 7 o'clock at night. What a great way to set up that lesson before you get into the actual teaching piece. All right, this is the best part right here. Sample lessons. Okay, so in this book, How to Do Virtual Teaching, if you have a face for radio, I have a list of a whole bunch of different ways to engage kids and do some really cool lessons. The first one is this. Record something at the end, say this. I want the timestamp of when I said these 5 words in the little pre-recorded message. What does that force our middle school kids to do? Go back, watch the lesson again. And then ultimately you can say those 5 words are your vocab or what I need you to base your assignment on. Talk about manipulating kids to watch a lesson more than once. That's a great one. Okay, this one you can only really do recorded. It's hard to do live. Imagine doing a lesson and at the end of the lesson saying this. Hey everybody, there were 5 things in that lesson that were facts. And there were 5 things in that lesson that were fake. Go back and watch the lesson again and tell me which things are real and which things are not. Our kids are being inundated with media in regards to fake news and facts and all of this stuff. You can't do that lesson live, can you? You cannot. If you did that thing where it's like, what is fake and what is real? The first time you make a mistake live with your kids, little Bonnie Bowhead, she's gonna be raising her hand and going, it wasn't Eisenhower. So what a great way to do a pre-recorded lesson. Here are some facts. Here are some things that are not, or 2 different lessons, one that's full of facts and one that is not, and they have to go back and correct the one with all of the fake information. These are things that middle school kids will get into if you're willing to pre-record some of those. All right, next one, use your environment. This is a shout out to a friend of mine who is in Ohio and she lives and works on a farm. And she pre-recorded a lesson inside of her silo talking about volume and mass. What a great opportunity to show kids where they actually need to know this information. Yeah. And I thought to myself, if you really took it to the next level of middle school, imagine also playing 2 instruments inside of that silo so kids could understand acoustics and sound. These are things that our kids will watch and pay attention to. You want to do some connection things for like getting kids to just log on and just be silly and have fun. If I worked on a working farm, I would go, Mr. Berckemeyer's going to milk it. And it would literally bring the cow in and milk the cow. You know, kids, how many of you would sign up for that right here, right now? If you saw me milking a cow, you'd be like, there's no way, right? This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, is use your environment. Use what we have to kind of show kids where you're at. The other is, for me, is make sure that when you do some of these lessons, they are short and sweet. And the other thing is, middle school kids still love a good read aloud. Record a couple read alouds for when those kids are done early or they are looking for something because they're home alone and they're bored. Kids love those children's books. Read aloud. Last but not least, I'm worried about our kids being insular right now. How many of you have kept your family kind of in a protective bubble during this time, which many families have? One of the things I would do in regards to assignments is getting kids to survey other people as much as possible. Family members, friends, reaching out to others, and actually making contact. I was already concerned that our middle school kids were not reaching out to others and not communicating. I think it's going to be worse during this time. So those are some examples of simple lessons that you can do to kind of get kids active and engaged. All right, I am going to pause now and open it up, Kelly, for some questions, comments, or disagreements, political aspirations, whatever you got. I'm here for you, and I'm going to take another drink.
While you're taking a drink of your Gatorade. So we did have one question in the chat, and it was just talking about an appropriate time for students to be engaged on the computer for a continuous amount of time. And so this was from an elementary kind of teacher, a first grade teacher, but if you just kind of want to talk about what you've heard or what you think as far as what that appropriate time is.
I think when I talked about that 20-minute block, where 20 minutes of instruction, 10-minute break time, Do you know what? That needs to change for elementary kids. It might only be like 12 minutes interactive, 5-minute break. Because again, you have to look at your kids. High school, it might be 30 minutes of interaction, on there, and then a 10-minute break. So I kind of think you have to look at your kids, look at the age group, and decide how to do that. I was already fearful. Many of you had been hearing me talk about that some of our middle school kids were spending 60% of their time in a virtual world. This was pre-COVID. And what does that mean now? If you can survey your kids as much as possible, I sent out a few surveys that I had done for some schools that I'd kind of posted on some social media platforms. And I said to them, survey your kids, ask them if they've played a game with another person, ask them how much time they've been spending on a computer, ask them how much times they've spent with their family. I would want to know these things so that I can create a balance for my students. If you have a kid that is spending 90% of his day awake, period of the day, on some form of virtual learning or virtual gaming, then obviously I'm going to send out some stuff that gets kids to go outside, actually measure some things outside, get them to get some fresh air. Again, middle school kids will do a lot of the things that we ask them to do. So again, I look in 20-minute intervals, younger kids less, older kids more.
And then Jack, what about those kids who you really have a hard time getting engaged at all? Right. So what are some things, some strategies that teachers might use in order to at least get them even just to show up?
Yeah, well, that's, I talk a lot about the connection piece, which is not the academic piece. I'll be honest with you, what we're seeing is that if you offer any lunch bunches with kids, even if it's 1 or 2 days a week, where you say, hey, I'm online during this time to this time, I'll be eating my lunch. If you guys want to eat lunch together, let's do that. You will find out that the main source of protein and nutrients is chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. And so you'll really start to see their life. And plus they'll be able to talk. We're finding that those things actually draw kids on more than anything else. Pick a debate topic. Right now, our kids have been inundated with a lot of things that they're seeing on media, and they've not had an opportunity to express or think or say things out loud. And so offer a debate saying, at this particular time, I'm going to open it up for debate on this topic. Middle school kids love a good debate. They want that opportunity to get their voice heard and talk. So those kinds of things are what we're finding kids tend to engage on. Again, I'm the king of manipulation. So I would literally say, by the way, the 5 of you that have logged on, I still need that assignment from you. So once they're on, don't berate them. Don't make them feel bad, but say, hey, by the way, I need you. And by the way, you can stay on here after everyone logs off and I'll help you for 20 minutes. Those are the things that we're seeing kind of connect with kids.
Thanks, Jack. And I think too, and we've heard this a lot, even in my own district, as far as, are we requiring students to turn their cameras on so that we can see them? And, I think at first we took a pretty hard line at that we wanted to be able to see the students, to know that they were there more for a check-in situation. But then, the more I thought about it, the fact that, and we do have socioeconomic students, some of those disparities. And I thought about it, and you can kind of tell from someone's background, right? Like what's going on in that house or where they live or what it looks like. And so what do you think about that, Jack? Like, what is your thought?
I was past the coddling in education before COVID, and now I'm really extreme past coddling. I had a teacher come up to me and say, Jack, I'm so furious. Every time this kid logs on, his brother's behind him, shirtless, vaping. And I'm literally said to her, I said, you're a guest in their home. You want the camera on? As long as you don't see things that are illegal or extremely inappropriate, you're a guest in their home. You don't judge. This is not your opportunity to say, Jonathan, tell your brother to leave or go to another room. That might be the safest place in that kid's house. It might be the only place that internet works. So again, I talked about grace and grading. I'm also talking about stop with the judgmental kinds of things that we do as teachers sometimes. You want the cameras on, you got to expect. We were talking to one of the people before started where I think Michelle, it was you, or a kid had his ferret on there. Kids are going to be kids. And for some of them, they like to show you their home and they like to show you where they're living. So whatever you guys decide, whether it's cameras on or cameras off, I leave that up to the discretion of the teacher in the building. Now, there's one thing I forgot, Kelly, that I want to mention. And this is to all the administrators, and I need you to lean in on this one because I need you to really hear me right now. You need to have our backs when teachers record lessons and parents call you and say they don't like the lesson. You literally need to tell that parent to back off, that this is a unique year. There is nothing right and there is nothing wrong. Because if you do that, you will devastate that teacher to not want to do those again. And I think this is trial and error. Obviously, if there's some major discrepancies and, right in the middle of the lesson, the teacher's like, God, these kids are a pain in the ass. Okay, well then, we've got a problem there. But let's be honest, that person was a whack-a-damn-doodle before COVID. So for me, like I said, we need our support from our administrators to say, parents, just because we're recording these lessons doesn't give you free rein to critique my teachers. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Anybody want to shout out a question that didn't put one in the chat box?
And you guys can unmute.
I also love the statement though about you're a guest in their home. I thought
Well,
that
we
was
are, we really are. I don't know any other way to put it.
We did have a question. It was, we have a large EL population. Kids may not have their, sorry, that wasn't it. How can I meet my specially designed instruction time outside of the regular education classroom with resource room they have already had if they came 3.5 hours of virtual instruction? So I think, Deb, you're trying to say, like, they're already getting their regular classroom instruction. I'm the special education teacher. I have to come in with my SDI, and I need to make it engaging because they've already had 3.5 hours of their online instruction.
Yeah, depending on your schedule, which is really, really tough, like with the AB schedule, and then you have, school closed on Wednesday. It was funny, some teachers and I were talking just the other day saying, you feel like a divorced parent where you only see your kids 2 days a week. And my response was, well, then make it a really good 2 days. Where what is it that I can do? And by the way, there's some instructional coaches that are friends of mine that have literally kind of started to identify, like, what is a really good lesson to save for your classroom and what is a really good lesson that you can do virtually, so that you don't have to necessarily always decide. You kind of look at that and go, that's right, this is better live than it would be recorded. And so that would be something, and I don't know if I'm answering her question, but I also think if the teacher does some pre-recorded lessons ahead of time and the special ed teacher can see that, I think they can make some modifications and adaptations before the students actually see that lesson. But it's a tough one. Like I said, there are no right answers and no wrong answers right now.
And Jack, all these ideas that you've been throwing out, and you keep holding up this book pamphlet, can you tell people how they get that?
Are you ready for a shameless plug?
Absolutely. You wouldn't be Jack Berckemeyer without it.
All right. So if you go to jackberckemeyer.com, you can get this in 3 different ways. You can download it as a PDF. So then that way you get it this evening. Or if you wanted the printed version, you can do that. And where are my administrators? Administrators, listen to me. There's one that you can do as a downloadable PDF that you can give to everyone on your faculty and just say, hey, Jack Berckemeyer has a face for radio. Here's some really good ideas. Try them out. That's designed just for you to kind of say, look, I'm not telling you how to do some of those virtual lessons, but here's some examples to make it easier for us when we do some of our lessons. So there's 3 ways you can do that. The other is that, and the OMLA will send this out, I've been doing a couple things on social media. I've been doing a thing called Berckemeyer Breaks, which are just usually something funny, something that I'm thinking about. I do COVID confessions, which are just kind of like random thoughts that kind of go through my head during COVID. And then I do some rants. I did a really good one recently about my love and devotion to Betsy DeVos. And so I did those. And so it's just my way of kind of trying to stay visible, but also not annoy anyone and tell you that every day is a good day, because every day is not a good day. I struggle like everybody else. And I wrote a book on optimism. I have had my down times. I have struggled with what is my purpose. Pre-COVID, I knew my purpose. I knew what middle schools look like. I could tell you what good teaming practices were like. I could tell you anything about middle school. Today, I'm like everyone else. I'm not sure what kids will be like when they come back. I'm not sure how they will be socially, emotionally. I worry about that virtual world that they've been in for a long period of time. I worry about their social skills. I worry about all of those things that are unknown variables for us with our middle school students. And so it is tough. It is tough to wake up every day. And I know for those of you in the classroom where, we were talking, some friends of mine, when I talk about advocacy and the index cards, you guys have heard me preach about the index cards for years. I had a team tell me the other day, Jack, I haven't seen some of their faces. We're 8 weeks in. I've only seen them a total of 20 days with the AB schedule. That makes it tough to do those index cards now. So there are no right and there are no wrong answers right now.
And I will say that I had the opportunity because Jack sent it to me, but I would have paid for it because after I read it, it was really, really, really good. Like there were great strategies.
Why didn't you tell me you'd pay for it?
Because you sent it for free. So
I'm like 3 months away from living in one of your basements.
No, sorry, Jack.
Megan Rose, it might be Megan Rose,
right?
Or one of the two.
Any other questions?
Part of this was sip and chat.
I know, right? I do see people sipping. So I think we had at one point about 140 people on this sip and chat with you, Jack. So that's awesome because I know that teachers are tired at the end of these days. I always say, like, I would rather it just go back to normal because I work harder now than I ever worked before. So I know people are exhausted, and so appreciate the fact that people took time this evening, and hopefully you're able to laugh, get a couple strategies, and are thinking about going to Jack's website and doing that. And, someone said, or I saw someone in the chat said, I just wish all the teachers in our building could hear Jack, like just a few of his things that he says. So, I think take something that you heard tonight, one of the sayings that he said or a strategy that he used, and make it your mission for the next few days to tell as many people as you can on your staff about it. Because that's what really changes, right? When we start talking about things and sharing ideas and strategies, then that's when people will start doing things and changing what they're doing in their classrooms. So we appreciate that. Just a reminder that we have our conference, our annual conference. We are still, fingers crossed, hoping to have our conference on March 4th and 5th. I believe I'm just checking. Yep, March 4th and 5th at Kalahari, Jack's favorite place. So we're hoping that still works. If not,
home of pink eye, home of pink eye.
And a lot of other things. So we're hoping that runs. If it doesn't, we are discussing maybe some backup ideas of maybe pushing the conference, but I want people to know that it's an awesome, awesome conference. If you have not attended, what you just saw in this 40 minutes or so, 50 minutes or so, imagine that times like 2.5 days, right? It's awesome professional development where you leave and you are energized and you have strategies and things you can implement the next day in your classroom. And that's really what it's all about. It's practitioners and not theory. Not that there's anything wrong with theory, but I think teachers sometimes are like, I just need to know what I should be doing that are going to make things easier for me. So hopefully we'll see many of you there. You can always go to our website to find that conference registration. And Jack, anything before we?
Yeah, one thing, and I just, again, I'm going to lean in, and here's the deal. Maybe on Fridays, as a faculty, you might need a little AA for educators. And, maybe if you are in a building, say that we're all going to meet in the gym, mask up, social distance, and it's a free-for-all zone. If you need to COVID cuss, you can COVID cuss. If you need to just break down for a minute, break down for a minute. You can't look for outside sources to support us right now because we are inundated with so many things. The only people that are going to support us are each other. And I ask that you reach out to teachers on your faculty and just tell them you care about them, because the reality is this: pre-COVID, 5 to 7% of your staff were certifiable whack-a-damn doodles. Now it's 25%. I'm just saying that everyone is a little more vulnerable. everyone's a little more tense, and everyone just needs a little compassion and a little bit of patience. And so, again, no right or wrong answers this year, and welcome to your first year of teaching. Honestly, if there's anything I can do for you or anything for your schools, reach out. I'm here. I got some free time. So whatever you need, let me know.
Thanks, Jack. And just a reminder, Michelle mentioned a couple of our other events that are coming up on December 2nd, and then one in January with Kevin Honeycutt, who is another one of our keynotes for our event. So we thank you guys all for being here. And again, if you have any questions, just email anyone on the Ohio Middle Level Board, and I will send everyone Jack's cell phone number so you can all text him. Okay, right?
Sure.
All right, thanks everyone. And enjoy your holiday coming up next week, and stay safe and healthy.
Aloha, bye-bye, mahalo. See you all later. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jack.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a nice
You're welcome.
Thanksgiving.
Bye, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Again.
Bye-bye.
You know, Jack.